I wanted to start off with what's new, and we're looking at a few of the titles on screen. The 2025 Choose to Read list is out. So this is a list. It comes from the State Library of Ohio and the Ohio Library Association. And it's with the Ohio Center for the Book and Choose to Read Ohio Advisory Council. So they're announcing our new list. It's a new year, and they spotlighted books. So the reason they picked these people is because in some way or form, they're connected to Ohio. They're either person who was born in Ohio, residing in Ohio, or associated with Ohio. So it's really great if you're looking for, hey, how do I start picking some titles and you want something? This would be a common theme or thread that you could check out these titles. And they were vetted by Ohio teachers, librarians, and other advocates for readers and for reading. And starting this year, they're going to have this list appear annually instead of biannually. So I'm glad to hear that. We'll get a new list next year. I want to spotlight, this was in INFOhio's news recently, one of the iCoaches. Andrea is in our Noweka area. She works at Seneca East in a K-12 library. So I just wanted to give her a shout out. It's really great to hear when you guys get recognition out there. So that's for Andrea. She'll join us in a little bit. She's busy till about 1:30. Another thing that is new for 2025 is OhioNet. And if you're not aware, you get discounts through an OhioNet account. We are members and we list our membership through INFOhio. So if you look at the list on the right, those are the companies that give discounts. And when I talked with Pam Rossman, she's the OhioNet contact, because I was curious about those Demco discounts. When you click, and any of you who need the link to the presentation, you should have gotten it through email, but just in case you need it, let me put that into our chat. You can click these links, such as this one, and go look at what Demco offers. And let's see. Yep, because this is a screenshot of like the very top of the list. Well, whenever you go in and you want to access this discount list, you'll actually be setting up an account. You'll pick that you are going to get your access through INFOhio and create an account. And it's completely free to do so. And the Demco list, let me just pop in here live real quick for you guys. Oh, that's fun. So let's see. I'm going to go to services, equipments, and supplies. I have to go to this member access to get discounts. And here's this annual library product contract discounts. If any of you who are in this meeting want to add to the chat, if you do use the OhioNet discounts, just put a shout out like, yes, you do, or maybe you never heard of them. Either way, it'd be nice to know a little bit if this is a benefit to you all. So this list is what the top screenshot was showing in the presentation. And they're saying here, $10 off 100, broad art, 18 off of consumables, 15 off of durable furniture and equipment. I wanted to just get down to Demco here because that is certainly one who you would be very frequently using. And I asked Pam about these contract levels, 1, 2, 3, 4. And she just made the comment that it's determined by how much and how often each individual school library makes a purchase. So if INFOhio is making their own purchases, we'll have to check with them to find out what level they're using. So unfortunately, she didn't have that information. And we could also contact Demco to see if they can answer that for us. So that's just a little shout out there, and benefits to all of you if you didn't know, or if you do. I didn't see any, oh good, thank you, Kim. Kim is the one who did tell us that, yes, she uses the Demco discounts. So thank you for that. Let's get out of our little OhioNet login, back to our presentation. This is from Teach with INFOhio, 4 ways to teach media literacy every day. And Emily Rosmus from INFOhio posted this article on January 6th. I just wanted to bring it to your attention. There was a lot in here. The link is in the presentation for you. And media literacy, it's not just in the library, it's everywhere these days. And with media literacy, students learn to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. And that's what I kind of liked here at the top of the article. They have it split out. But then I took a few screenshots from the full article. They have open space, and open spaces for you, for teachers, anyone looking for resources. And the link is there in the corner. Using open space, educators can find a variety of instructional materials, if you didn't know that already. And they also have lesson plans, textbooks, activities, other learning resources. There's a lot there. If you would do a search like this one is showing for the words media literacy up there at the top, then you can see articles such as I'm not going to say the word, epidemiology, media literacy for high school students, Read, Write, and Think. I love that resource. Critical media TV programs for middle school students. It just goes on. And this breaking news checklist infographic, it lists 6 best practices to navigate fast-moving news stories, cut through the news, find accurate information. So that is a resource in there as well. Good for middle school, high school, for those of you at that level. They have something for all grade levels. So don't think this is just for our upperclassmen. Our elementary audience, they have evaluating online resources. And I cannot believe this website is still out there. Save the Pacific Northwest Tree Octopus. It's still being used to evaluate websites. That thing's got to be about 20 years old. And so they have an ebook from INFOhio. Chapter 4 in that ebook discusses lateral reading and an activity to do with students. So all of this, it's just half the article. In the second half, there's developing digital detectives. There's an evidence locker. This looks really cool. I haven't had the chance to drill into it yet. So it's a bonus website, has mini lessons, there are infographics, and sometimes that's all it takes, posting something on the end of the shelf, or while they're standing in line, something by the door that gets the kids thinking about media literacy. So check out the article. The links, again, like I said, are in the presentation. And if you don't have a presentation up, let's see here, I'll just go ahead and add that into our chat in case you say, I want to jump over there now and check those out. So you'll see the screenshots just came out of this article. And you're probably like, how do I even log in, and why would I, and what is it? So that's really what this is about. And it's an attendance program application. INFOhio has whipped up, you see here, Attendance Manager powered by INFOhio. And there's need in some areas, in some libraries, where possibly that's used for a study hall, or they want to track the number of students who are going in and out. But that library isn't really set up through the student information or the electronic gradebook system. So how do you track it? And I've heard of really clever things at conferences, and in just like really only in the past 2 years or so, this very recently, people were making up a Google form. The kids would scan it with, I mean, it was more work. I mean, they made it work, but this is a replacement to doing anything that you would have to create from scratch. INFOhio has done it. And so there's the address. Go to attendance.infohio.org. And any of you who bookmark your portal for your ITC, then you will have this link right below Blue Cloud. And it's data.infohio.org/your ITC. So that would be, oops, let me not paste that. I'm going to copy. So /TCCSA/NOECA, NOECA, or /LACA. I'll throw that into our chat. The reason I'm forewarning some of you that you may not be able to sign in is this. You do need to be able to authenticate. They have turned on something called multi-factor authentication, MFA. This is all the rage right now with insurance companies and privacy. And so whenever you pick your ITC here, as you see, all of them across the state are available. Pick yours. Pick your library. So I'm picking my test library. You need to pick your own. And then put in your workflow's username and password. When you log in, it's going to email you. And this is the part that might not be set up. For my TCCSA participants, and I think for NOECA, whoever was registered from those two ITCs, I took care of you. LACA folks, I don't have the luxury of that. So that's something Beth or Tiffany may have already took care of for you because I warned them about that too. But I know we had some drop-ins today and one coming in later. So it's okay. Just follow through the presentation, put in a ticket if your email, if you do this and don't get an email message. So I have an email message waiting for me. Also though, please check into your junk or your filtered mail in case it doesn't come through right away. You don't see it in your inbox. Okay, I got myself a new code. I'm going to try it. So the idea, like I was saying, you have a group of kiddos coming in the room. Maybe they're not officially part of a class, but there's some way you want to take attendance and kind of keep tabs on them. One gal who was going to be here in person could not attend today, but she really is the ideal situation. She's at a career center. I know all of their language arts teachers were given workflows access. And so let me put that caveat out there. We could have other people than a library staff use it, but they would need library staff access. So they were setting that up because they have a kiosk system and they wanted to be sure those language arts staff could go and assist looking up student IDs if they didn't bring theirs with them. And this would be another benefit to those language arts staff, that they could also run and use this tool. So if I'm looking here at the presentation, for those of you who are not into it live, then you're looking at the beginning screen. And if you want to, up here at the top right, you click the green plus, and this pops up, Start New Attendance. The name is totally up to you. I already used this name last week, or actually back in November. So I'll put January in my title. And all it means is that I have a new section. And with this new section, we're sitting here looking at a title. My screen's also showing past classes, past topics. And then the icons off to the right are what you look at next. And you can just hover over them. That's what I'm going to do. And that's what the presentation will kind of highlight. The first one is to take or resume your attendance. And then next over is the print icon. I'm just going to briefly go through each one. And we can download this as a CSV file. email it. Maybe it needs to go off to an administrator, off to, yeah, you know, maybe they were doing detention in the room. Maybe they were doing a club, and that club is FCCLA or your other academic groups like student council. And then there is a kiosk mode where the students can walk up and scan themselves. So that would allow them to scan in, scan out, and I'll show you just here, just a regular old take attendance. So here, in the next slide in the presentation, it talks about, you know, this class, and it's just showing students signed in. So right now, students are walking in. I could scan their badges, which that's what I'll do since I happen to have a pile of them here. You probably heard me plugging in my scanner. And we're just checking the kids in as quick as checking out a book. There we go. If a student was to turn around and say, oh, I have to go back to Ketchup Cafe, I'm not supposed to be here, then you can quickly scan them again, and it marks them. And it's funny, that's my blue cloud barcode actually. So blue has just checked out, and it timestamps it, which is really nice. And so you see these others are official kids, so they all had grade levels associated with them. Now I could just do this each day, and it would be something I create again and again. And that way I always have the past history. So I could also reuse something. So here is one from last Wednesday, and I could take /resume. This is the second method of what I could do. I don't have to continue to keep making a class title or group title, but the only bad thing is I'm going to have to sit here and clean it out. And so it's a choice. If you want the data and collect it over time, then you're going to create new classes. If you say, oh no, I already downloaded it or I emailed it, then you don't have to create new ones. You could just come in, clean out the old, and then start scanning the students again and checking them in and reuse. Because sometimes setting up the names is time consuming and you might not want to bother with them. So this is a little show and tell of using this attendance tool. And in the presentation, it's now covering, if you've advanced your own slides, it's talking about the icons that I previously mentioned. I kind of jumped the gun on that. But you can download. It's going to give you a spreadsheet file. I'll have to choose to pick it open. If it just opens in something like Notepad, then it's going to look like this. But of course, it's comma separated, so that can open up an Excel. And then I can do whatever I'd like, sort it and save it outside of this attendance tool. Anything I don't want to use, like this old November one, the delete, and it's gone permanently. So you guys all can probably pretty much guess, you know, emailing, that all works very nicely. We know our email's in there because we had to use our email to authenticate. In the presentation, I went ahead and added a slide so you could see the spreadsheet style. Looks just like this. And we covered pretty much all the others. I'm not going to print one. And let me ask, are there any questions out there? Thoughts about this? Is this useful, not useful? I mean, there's no force into using the tool. I want to hear from some of you, so I'll stop share and bring back my camera. What are your thoughts?
I think it could be something we could explore with study hall, the learning that we could add the study hall monitor in there. Right now, we just use a paper format. The students sign out on paper, then the last student to come up to the library brings that paper and we, look at them. And then if they sign out to the restroom, we use a paper. they sign out and in on paper too. And then if the administration needs it, they just come gather those papers from us. We keep a nice pile. But yeah, now that I've learned that study hall could maybe use this too, it might be something to look into. But then for admin to see it, we still would need to export and send that to them. It's not like a live shared results.
Correct.
And if study hall signs in with their own, we can't see each other's either. Like, or could we go through and see each other's too?
I have not tested where, say, like you and I were both logged in, and can I see yours? But I'm going to suspect no, that it's going to be account based.
It's user specific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am completely fine with no, this is not for me. This was just to introduce it to you all. Can I view the attendance list live? So with Jody's question, or sorry, Jody's question. Did I leave my attendance screen? There it is. These are past ones. This is the one I just made. I just returned to it. And right there it is. This is as live as it gets. And
Go ahead and share your screen again.
oh dear. Thank you, Lori. That's why you're here, to catch me on those mistakes. I'll close that so I can return. As I mentioned, Jody, here's the title I made just now today. I scanned in some kids, and this is it. I didn't show you all kiosk mode, I supposed. So this is, I scanned some kids, but let's say I'm going to walk away from my desk or turn it over now, then I can go ahead to kiosk mode. And now it's up. It keeps privacy, so the other kids don't know who scanned in. And so there, for whoever is in kiosk mode, it does confirm their name, tell them they're checking out. If someone wasn't scanned into that class, it shows they're checked in. And to close kiosk, it does require the workflow's username. So it's not like a kid can just go look at the list now. That's nice. Little privacy there. And then that returns me. And this is the last few that I was using in kiosk mode. So that's the live. I hope that answers Jody's question. And I see here I have a mistake in my presentation. So this link hopefully will still work out for you all. The library policies, yours, that are set. Sometimes it's worthwhile reviewing. Lori and I did this maybe 2 years ago. She scoured. She did a house cleaning big time. And so if you have this presentation, you can go ahead and click to go straight to the policies. Yeah, see, I think I had that typo in there. Let's, yeah, take that out of there. So I'll fix that presentation later on. Let's go with this. There we go. I will paste that into our chat, seeing how I have a oops in the presentation link. Also, those of you who were logged in live to the attendance module, well, guess what? These things are related. Or if you have a bookmark to your portal for your ITC, you can go to the library policies that way. So I'm returning back here just to show you when I close that last attendance list, right here are the policies. So I can jump into policies. Good news, they have not turned on authentication for the policies portion. So let me just log totally out. I'm going to leave attendance, return here, either through the portal, or I could go through and log out, make sure all my screens are logged out, and go to policies. So this is the link that I put into the chat. And you still do the same things. You pick your ITC. I'm going to pick Lori's only because my test is not a great test to use. And log in. Use your workflows, username and password. And so please, by all means, follow and hop out onto a browser, head out to review your own policies. Now, the first thing you're going to see, and I apologize, Lori, I probably should have asked for permission to share. These are just older dates that are part of the library calendar, and they may not be necessary or needed, but district is typically, a library that's not in used actively. So that's perfectly fine that this is showing old dates, but let's look at buildings. So your district is first, and then each one of your library buildings is next. So I know it's hard for districts when you have multiple elementaries for you all to get together. In a way, you're able to see what policies or what calendar dates they have set at those other buildings to make sure you match, or to say, hey, I see you let your kindergartners have books out for 2 weeks, or you let them have 5 books. So that's why it's kind of nice to see the other buildings. So you certainly should see your own, and you're seeing your other buildings. What's off to the right then is the calendar. And that way, these are closed dates that you don't want books to be due. And that's what Workflows does for you. It says, hey, these are not school days. Do not make items due on a day we're not in session. For TCCSA back in 2023-24, that school year, I put in your dates. I did not put in your dates this school year. Lori, though, I know you're a district librarian. She does handle that, and her users take care of their dates. So another reason why I partially picked East Holmes. And all of you then, whenever you scroll down, you're going to see patron profiles. And here in the patron profiles, we see each patron type. So you have faculty, you have students, and each student number. Which ones do you use? Were you even aware? And why is this important? If I want to run a shelf list or an overdue list for maybe just those upper grades, then I know that students who are in grade 7 to 11, I should pick the profile student 3. And that would help narrow down. That would help me work through some of my reports. So that's one reason that it's important. You also see details such as, all right, when 10 are overdue, that's her limit, their bill overdue limit, their checkout limit. I would love to be one of their teachers. They get lots of books in East Holmes. And then their hold limit. So those who use online holds. Your students would have a number there. And if you don't have numbers, or if you don't agree with your numbers, let us know, or that meaning your support for LACA or support that I do for TCCSA and NOECA, we can make sure we go through those and make sure they are what you need them to be. These staff profiles, these are you. These are staff like your own account. You might be a library, LIB1, and then these are each of the buildings in this district. So they each have a lib1. They have 2 and 3s. These are typically your 3s are for your subs. So you have sub accounts. And there's really nothing to do with those, just pointing out, explaining what you're looking at. Item groups. So these are the actual item groups that display for you. And when you're thinking about item groups, is this listing all the different types that you like? Does it matter to you? Is it too much and you really hate the long list? are you no longer using cassette and you want me to take that away, or your library support? We could have that removed so you aren't looking at this long list. I want to ask, actually, story collection. I need a little help there, and wonder if one of our more experienced library folks out there can explain to me the type story collection.
I could pipe into why we use it. We needed something, we had books that were nonfiction books, but they read like fiction, and we wanted to put them into a collection. There just wasn't really a good choice. So Shelley and I picked that one because they don't really fall under special circ. They don't have special circ policy, but we just wanted to have a way to kind of, they're not fiction. We didn't want them back in nonfiction. And that way we could shelve them by fiction and have a way to know where they're at in our library.
So they were nonfiction that read like fiction.
And biographies, some,
Okay.
like a book about climbing Mount Everest, and it's written more suspenseful and more like you're reading a fiction book, but it was a true journey.
Okay.
Those type of books, a survivor of a Holocaust or something. And we found the students weren't going back to nonfiction or back to biography to grab those. And so we put them in that collection. And that way, when they're just shelf browsing, they're falling upon them, they're up closer to us, so we can say, hey, if you're looking for something unique. And we found it did increase some of our circ of those titles.
Okay.
Not
Awesome.
just your classic biography, traditional learner kind of style.
Okay. Now, what I'm showing you guys is a really long list, and maybe there's something on this list that you don't have in your own. If you're comparing this presentation screen with your own, if you're in workflows. I'm sorry, if you're logged into the policy web access. So just wanted to point this out. We have a list, and maybe, I'm thinking maybe, where are you? Graphic novel, yeah. So where that should likely be a label you're using, but maybe it's not showing whenever you're cataloging. And I like that Andrea added into our chat, they use that story collection for short stories. So that's another use. Thank you, ladies, for both your ideas. Next up is your circulation rules. And I really like this description right off to the right, but know that the description is something that a person has actually typed in. But as this 1D translates, that is for do in 1 day, the zero is R, and that is 0 renewals, and then 0F for 0 fines. And what starts to happen here? We take the patron, we take the rule, and then we take these maps. And these maps are putting those things together. So here is the profile. And I had picked out student 3 earlier. And then here's the circulation rule. And the combination of these two things is making something called a circulation map. And most of you don't deal with this, don't need to deal with this. This is my end. This is something I handle. But if you find that your overdue reports are just throwing false positives because you're like, why in the heck are all my 3rd graders overdue all the time? And it might be worthy that we take a peek at your circulation map and make sure that we have the right rule and we have the right profile for your library. So that's all I'm pointing out, how to read this, and then what I can do for you is change these things. And the circulation map on my screen in workflows, it works from the bottom and then it goes up. So maybe I can pull up our circulation map for East Homes. So what I'm pulling up here for you all to see is workflows from my end. And this is similar to what we were just looking at. But what happens is this list reads from the bottom up. When the system is logging somebody in and they're checking their credentials, they'll first hit the high school kids in this district situation and their circumstance. And so those are anyone with a student 2 or 3 profile. And then they get the 2 weeks. Then the next batch, if you were not a high schooler, then it continues looking for you. And so all of elementary. And then the last one, even though it's at the top, you'd think it's first. This is last. And then this is saying, hey, if you were not found in those earlier maps, circulation maps, then we're going to catch you. And from all libraries, all profiles, and then it's going to say, sorry, you can't circulate. And these were some old policies. I can't remove these. That's just a rule in INFOhio land. I always just need to kind of retire them. And that's why they're at the top of the list. So if I was to ever work with you to clean these up or change them, then this is the same thing I would do for you. And we labeled them not in use. There's just a little taste of that side, because that's not something you work with personally. You work with your support folks. Here's a really important one. The last one are compulsory return dates. If your school calendar is out, which really, in all honesty, it's probably going to be the middle of next month, let me know. The sooner we get your CRDs and we can get those entered in, the better. We're going to be looking, Tiffany and Beth, they'll be looking for the next school year. So honestly, we always try to keep in 3 years, always, just in case we miss a district, we're not at a complete loss. But I know our career center, she checks out laptops to the juniors, and those kids get those before school starts. So she's doing that work in July. So I have to have that compulsory return date already in there for 2026. And yes, there's a placeholder, but typically all I do is go with whatever the month and day that was used. And of course, Lori gave me an accurate day. I just didn't, specify the generic date through the future years. Oh, and honestly, this is our current year for return date for anything out long-term or when it comes to the end of the year. And then that's why 16 is repeated, because I'm just holding this in place. Now, I'm ready to get the official dates for NOECA, for TCCSA. Anytime you got your school calendar, feel free to send it in. And that way I could, and tell me my last day for checking out items is, and then I can put in the 2026 date. So this is like a little preview of what's to come, especially with our March meeting. I'll kind of be knocking on your doors a little harder for that information in a couple months, but that's to get it on your radar. And this is a little peek at your policies. Here we go. So if I go to the online catalog and you were logging in, right?
Go pick a school.
Okay. I'll just pick your high school.
And
And
then I didn't even log in. You can log in because that way your lists, you can save them. But I just typed what it is. I just did this for Valentine books. I typed in Valentine books, then I used my left to kind of narrow down. And that way I just kind of curated a quick list that I could take to my shelves and quickly pull
very
books
nice.
by topic.
And so I'll type in Valentine, even though we're at the high school level. We'll see what we have there.
Yeah,
Search.
I did do it at Mount Hope, so there's probably not near as much. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so if we're trying to pull in a list and then have like a student helper or even do this, if you're a district librarian and you want to send this list off to your building staff who don't have time to hunt and peck, then you're saying you made the list. But what did you do next? Was it just a matter of?
So if you click either select all or individual titles, if there's only certain ones you want, and then click actions down a little bit.
Well, thank you.
Yep, right there, add to my list. And then just close that little pop-up. And then once you're finished with that process, maybe there's several pages of titles you're kind of working through. When you're ready to print it, you go up to my lists up above all libraries. And then select all.
All right.
And, had you been kind of curating over a series of pages, those would all be there. And then you can do actions print, and you can sort, obviously arrange them differently.
Okay.
And then to conserve paper, I like to do 2 pages per page. So because it's pretty large text, and that way then you can set it up to print and actually just print that off and then kind of work through your shelves.
And it will let you build as long as you keep this open and, don't leave or close out. So if I wanted.
Yeah, right. But if you wanted to keep it like that, you want to go back to it, then you would definitely want to sign in. And that way it will keep your list and you could go back to it another day.
Okay, so I'm not gonna select all because that's gonna be a long one, I'm sure. So I'll just jump around, grab a few. And then do actions just like she commented, add. So now these are gonna all be combined though into one list, right?
Yes, so that you go ahead and, you could sort that. And then when you're ready, you just do actions.
And go back to print to screen. So presidents, and then, but where's my Valentine ones? So I lost that first batch.
Because you weren't signed in.
Okay, but only reason it's there is because I browsed back. Sorry, folks. I don't want to seem that like that was an illusion. That just happened because I kept that tab open and I used the arrow for history in the browser. Okay, so yeah, it's one shot, one search, check, add, and print. Okay. But okay, I guess that was the part I was hoping that if I had not, I thought I could add and say type a new word, but I can't unless, like you said, I need to log in. I'll just keep with the same theme here. Signing in here. You can save your lists and you can also rename your lists. She's also mentioning once you're signed in, you can also update past lists, which is great. So that'll give you an option on which past list to add to or add it to a new list. And I'm gonna kind of brag on you, Lori, here. She's using something called Book River that displays for your iSearch page. This is pulling in, what did you pick? Are these new titles for your high school?
Yes, the high school is set to new titles right now.
Okay.
But I did like Christmas titles at Christmas time. In the fall, I did fall titles, and I typically have it pulling just fiction and nonfiction, sometimes graphic novels, depending on what the focus is.
Okay. So if you're looking for a unique way to kind of pull out and advertise and you have a search station in your library, then this is one way to get attention to those new books or special books that you whip up. It's called Book River, and it appears on the iSearch page. And so Jody's asking, how do we change the Book River? That is one of 3 different type of reports. You just run a new one of those reports. Subject selected items, hand selected, So maybe you have those low circulated items, but you know they're winners and you really want to get attention. And then you can do a new items. So I hope that helps Jody out. I'm glad she asked. Yep, we can make this. Now, for those of you who have never set a book river, there is something your library support person, whether it's LACA or it's me, we have to do for you to get it running. Once it's running, it's just going to have that blank space in the middle of your iSearch page. And then once you run the report, it will populate and fill the center of your screen.